Hi and welcome back. Today I'm going to be painting a semi-abstract mountain scene inspired by the beauty of the mountain called Tryfan in the Snowdon range in Wales. I'm using Saunders Waterford hot press paper today. I want a nice smooth surface and I'm going to try and get lots of interesting effects. It's taped to my board. My board's at an angle of about 45 degrees. I've wet the sky and I've wet the foreground. I've splashed some water on, and now using my large flat Chinese haki brush from AliExpress. I don't have the link, I'm afraid, but I'm sure you'll be able to find one. I'm roughing in these mountain shapes and slopes and rocky outcrops using Paynes grey and indigo to start with, and some sepia. I'm trying to leave plenty of unpainted white paper as I dash the paint across the page, and now using a little bit of this indigo and Paynes grey mix, watered down quite a lot, across the sky, washing out my brush, softening back, because I want the sky to be quite pale, quite soft, but still to have some movement in it as the sort of clouds are affected by those beautiful mountains. With a wet in wet semi-abstract like this, I'm watching all the time what's happening, where the paint's running, where it isn't, where it's thickest, what marks are happening, and I'm trying to adjust them here and there. I'm softening back this edge here with a damp squirrel mop, so hopefully I'll end up with that top edge looking like it's in cloud cover. Now this is the sepia that's coming in across those blues, blacks and greys, adding a bit more shape and form and interest. Most of this is freshly squeezed tube consistency onto the wet paint, onto the wet paper, and it's giving me some very strong, bold marks and brushwork. I've just spattered in some water into some of the thicker parts of the paint to create some more bursts and blooms and blossoms. The next thing I'm going to do is take my cling film or food wrap, or glad wrap I think it's called, and I'm going to take a piece of this and lay it across the bottom slope of the mountain and press it onto the thick paint, pulling the cling film fairly tight across the bottom, and what it does is it sort of clings in these kind of shapes and shards, and if you allow the paint to dry with the cling film attached, it should give me some really nice and interesting effects for that foreground slope. And just before I leave it to dry, I'm going to just add a few more really strong bold marks with very thick paint. I'll add some brush marks into this bit here. Now they could sort of simulate rows of trees in the shadows, and texture and rocks in the mountains. I'm just going to spatter in some sepia across that area there, just allowing it to diffuse and again add to the marks and textures. Remember, if you're working in a sort of semi-abstract way, the most important thing is experimentation, expression and fun. I'm already loving some of the marks that I'm seeing that are happening in this painting. I'm getting some really nice effects. And if you look closely, you can see, I think, the kind of patterns that hopefully are going to be created by the cling film across the bottom. And now I'll leave it to dry completely. So it's now nice and dry, so I'm going to pull away the cling film or Glad wrap, and hopefully, yes, that looks nice. I've got some really interesting jagged, sort of geometric but very random shapes that have been created through the use of the cling film. If we look closer, I think you can see that it's looking very, very interesting. One thing I'm not sure about is there's like a little row of very pale sort of droplets where I think I spattered some water in the sky. I've got a feeling they might fade out a little bit more as the paper really dries, but if not, I can turn them into birds. So now I'm going to define some of those marks that I made using the cling film across the foreground using really quite rich Paynes grey and my flat brush, and I shall work the flat brush between some of the marks, adding a really nice amount of depth and darkness across the bottom of the mountain range. I'm making sure that I don't cover up all those lovely marks and textures. So really I'm trying to enhance the special effects that I was given by using the cling film. Just putting in some extra darks across the bottom, and that should balance out some of the really dark, rich paint that I've got in other parts of the painting. I'm trying to make the marks not look too sort of similar or uniform. I'm keeping them fairly blocky or linear. I'll soften them back in a bit once I've got a few more in there. I've also heard that this method of using the cling film or the plastic food wrap is a really good way of creating very interesting sea textures for, say, a stormy sea or breaking waves, that sort of thing. And I haven't tried that yet, but I'm going to have to at some point. But I must admit, I do like the technique for mountains. I think it can be a really interesting way to create texture very quickly. So I'm continuing to enhance the marks that I've made, adding some sort of more brown of the sepia into the Paynes grey as well for a bit of variation. I'm taking my time with this part of the painting. It's dry, so there's no sort of time limit. I'm sort of stopping and looking at it and thinking where else I need to go. The last thing I want to do is to overdo this stage of the painting, because at the moment the effects are all quite sort of fresh and spontaneous. And so what I want to do is draw attention to those effects rather than detract from them. Next, I'm going to soften that blue area in the midground there, softening that back just with a damp brush. I'm running it through the thick paint that's already there because the marks were a little bit blobby, a little bit blocky. So if I can smooth and soften that out and make that area fairly plain, I think it'll work better with the rest of the painting. And I think that's a lot better. It's much smoother there now. I'm just going to now dip into very rich Paynes grey and darken up a few of those marks that I made before. Get it really nice and dark here and there, so it's very, very shadowy. And I'm quite pleased because I'm looking at where those little droplets were in the sky. They faded out to almost nothing, so I think I've just about gotten away with that, so I won't worry about putting in a sort of flock of birds there. I think I'm going to leave it at this. I think the simplicity of the painting works really well, and yet it somehow looks very, very complex. but it was really just a very interesting and fun way to explore trying to paint these sort of semi-abstract mountains. I'm going to remove the tape now. I'm pulling it away from the painting to make sure that it doesn't sort of tear into the painting. And now you can see it with a clean white border. I'm hoping that the shapes and the textures and all the diffusions and patterns make a lot more sense now, that it really sort of does suggest those rugged mountains in the wilds of Wales, in Snowdonia. I'm very much liking the sort of illusion of mist and clouds across the top of the mountains and sort of rolling through some of the rocky clefts. And if we look closely, we can see some beautiful wet in wet diffusions that have happened and amazing patterns. And this is one of the reasons that I love watercolour so much, is that it's a medium that you never know quite what's going to happen and how things are going to look, and that's part of its beauty. And another thing that I really like about these sorts of paintings is no two will ever turn out alike. You will always end up with something that's unique and expressive. It's not always going to work. This is quite a sort of a hit and miss technique. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But what I can say is that it's so much fun, and it will teach you so much about what watercolour can do and the kind of effects you can get. Thank you so much for watching. Please give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And thank you so much to my lovely Patreon group who support this channel. I'll see you again soon. Take care then. Bye.